like to invite Lady Jane Wilde, wherever you are, to come to the stage, and the cast of her guests in her famous salon. Sometimes the salon is in Dublin, and sometimes the salon is in Connemara, if any of you know the great Wilde Connemara.
Yes,
There she is, in all growing, Lady Jane Wilde.
Expecting Beyonce? Not at all, my darlings. Figuring out with Janet Reno. Oh, well, anyway. My name is Jane, and as you can see, I'm not plain. And I'm wild. Oh, my darling. But that's wild with an E. You may remember my son Oscar. He was wild too. He was very wild boy. I don't know where he is tonight. But you're lucky. On the Friday night, in my house in Marion Square, I always invited artists, writers, intellectuals like yourselves, and so to come to my house on Marion Square, I would entertain as many as 200 people a night. So we're pretty close tonight. I've invited some lovely artists and musicians here, and some wonderful singers. Dear Rosie Caine has put together some marvelous, marvelous music that we're going to hear tonight. So, without further ado, let me, oh, and I do have to mention one more thing about this. My Marion Square house, I mean, I invited the Property Brothers here to do something. I went away, and this is what they've left me with, so you'll have to do it with it. I'll explain where the bathrooms are in the middle of the whole show. So now, please, let's put our palms together, because we're going to have to get used to a lot of that tonight. And welcome my musicians and singers. Please, darling, come into this tonight. And there were a lot of wild Irish women back then, a lot of them. But whether they were real or myth, we don't know. We do know that early Ireland was running around with all kinds of creatures. A lot of them were druids. Druids were in high demand back then. So one woman named Nessa, who's part of the song she just heard. Excuse me? Was that druid? Oh, anyway, Nessa was a wild woman, and she hung around with a druid. All right, and then of course the druid and her fell in love, and they finally got together. So she has a son, Nessa. Well, that's all well and good, and the son is terrific, and he grows up to be a king. Fergus, what could be better for a mother? You know, the son is the father, is the son of the druid. Well, he as king loves his mother so much, Nessa, that, well, they become a couple. And they have a son. Are you following me? Should I go to the chart? All right, no, we're all together. Yeah. So they have a son, and this son, but it's all Nessa in her head, this son, when he's 7, wants to play in the castle. There isn't much furniture in the castle at all. So he runs around, he wants to be in Daddy's favorite chair. And Mother, Nessa says, go right ahead. Well, Daddy's favorite chair was the throne. And then, of course, Daddy, who was the son of, but the lover of, Nessa, said, when can I have my throne back? The kid likes it, she says. He's going to stay on it for years and years and years. Well, that's what happened to him. So he had to leave. He joined an army, the army of Connaught, and went to work for another woman named Maeve, and that's another story. So, son, Nessa's son, Druid's son, Nessa's son. All right? Lovely woman, here comes the song. It'll be much clearer than I was, I'll tell you that.
Already I know I'm screwed without and there from my own brood. Merely a woman, a slip of a girl, not from the wisdom she plucked from her. When Nessa came to settle the score, I fell in love with her more and more. A plan for revenge included her son. She asked me if he could try out my throne. I never suspected she had a game plan to take my whole kingdom and my land. I never suspected the woman scorned would take such revenge, 'cause her books were burned.
Fergus, you forgot to mention my tutors. Maybe your army mistook them for suitors. They pillaged and burned them all with my books, but I was still left with my mind and my looks. Did you think I'd ever forget such a horror? I bided my time, dried my tears, hid my sorrow, waited till I felt well and strong, and with my young son set to right what was wrong. Who do you think she could live with such lumps, ridiculous ways and their drinking bouts? She's going to stay on forever in Ulster, determined to bring his all subculture.
Already I have to give up. Made my bed, now I'm stuck. Lost my crown, my beloved Ulster. At least I don't have to move to Munster. How did I get hoodwinked and outsmarted by a slip of a girl? It's not me she wanted, a stepping stone for her only son Connor. Wooed by her, I had too much jar.
Fergus, my dear, my son's on the throne, so give up your preaching and come back home. I was ready and waiting to take a stand by the ruling of Ulster, by the red hand.
Both of our stories were made to last.
Let's call it quits, forget the
Well, Deirdre was another one. I don't know if you know about her. You've heard the name, the word Deirdre of the Sorrows? Well, here's the story. It's sort of sad. It has druids in it again. But anyway, there was a king who wasn't too good at the dating scene, so druids were sort of like one of those sonograms for people that can tell whether it's going to be a boy or a girl. This druid comes to the king one day who can't find a date and says, listen, there's going to be born one heck of a beautiful girl in your kingdom, all right? The king says, oh, this sounds great. So after the girl is born, he's very smart. He's going to save her for a rainy day. That's what they did then. And he sends her off up into the woods to be brought up by a woman named Leprechaun. Now, Leprechaun is one mispronunciation away from leprechaun. He should have known better, for God's sake. But anyway, the girl is taken care of by Leprechaun. She grows up, gets older. It's a little boring in the woods with Leprechaun and fairies and imps and things like that. Along one day comes, just like you'd expect, this beautiful hunk of a guy from Scotland. She falls in love with him, he falls in love with her. Off they go to Scotland, and now Leprechaun is stuck trying to tell the king, where is she? Golly gee, she's really ugly, so you know I don't know what to do with her. Well, eventually another spy comes up and finds out that she is not only gone, but she was beautiful. Well, and she's in Scotland with this hunk. So the king has a plan. He says, well, you know what I'll do? I'll do something like's being done today. I'll send out somebody in the diplomatic service and say that, hey, it's all okay. Come on back in, you know. That's all right. Bring him along. We're going to have a good old time. I always liked you anyway. So she comes back with her lover from Scotland, the hunk, and a guy, a mafia guy because he has the name Rough Hand, assassinates the boy on the way back. Oh, this is horrible, isn't it? So there's Deirdre. She is now very upset. He's dead. The one love of her life. She winds up with the king. Well, I got to tell you, for the king, I mean, you know, I have a headache 17 nights a week for her. The king was getting nowhere. He would have done better betting a goat, for God's sake. So that wasn't working out too well. So the king gets upset and he says, you know what? I've had it with you. You're not working out. This isn't worth it. So, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do as a punishment for you, further punishment. I'm sending you off to be married to the Rough Hand, the guy that killed your boyfriend. Isn't that sweet? Puts her in an Uber chariot. Off they go. Deirdre can't handle it, and what she does, she leaps from the chariot and bashes her brains out. Thus is the story of Deirdre of the Sorrows. But let us tell it.
I'd rather be Scotland, but we're so alone. I miss all the crack and I want to go home. I paid for my passion and lost my own life instead of becoming his loyal wife. I was captured and taken in heaven foretold. Then I died from my grief that my heart couldn't hold. I knew you were trouble, I knew you were pain. I should have turned back then, never seen you again. Somewhere in the stars, somewhere it was written, I'd get a few signs and then I was smitten. I knew you were trouble.
Well, another Wild Irish Woman was more from the myth and mist of goddessdom than unearthly. She was bored. She decided one day to come to Earth and just sort of live a quiet life. And so this woman named Macha came as a goddess to the front steps of a farmer, just a poor Irish farmer. Walked inside, said to him and his 3 sons, I will do whatever you'd like. I like it here, but just don't ask any questions. You know, she might have been in the witness protection program, I don't know. But they agreed. They didn't know anything about her. She stayed, she cooked, she cleaned, she did everything. And they never could find out where she came from. And then one day, the husband, a man named Criniac, found out that she had sort of good superpowers. He also found out that she was pregnant by him. So, but she was the goddess of fertility, and that was a title she was looking for, so she went after it. Well, Criniac couldn't keep his mouth shut, so he went off and bragged to the king one day at the races that his wife could outrun his chariots. Well, the king wasn't too happy about this, darling, I'm telling you. So he said, she what? My wife, she can outrun your chariots. The king said, he wasn't too happy with that, so he said, all right, well, let's have a race with your wife. And if she loses, you lose something and part of your anatomy, and let's go on with that. Well, Criniac goes home and tells Macha this. Macha's not too upset, but she loves him and is happy. And there's the race. Everyone from Ulster is out there gathered around the chariot, and a woman in her 3rd trimester of pregnancy. She's not too happy about doing this, but Criniac is all thumbs up. Go get him, Macha. So they run the race, and Macha runs and runs, and she beats the king's chariot and collapses. At the end, at the finish line, of course, the Ulster men gather around. They don't know what to do. Oh, holy mackerel, because she's giving birth to twins right then and there at the finish line. Everybody, nobody knows Le Mans, nobody, they're all just turning their backs on the whole thing. She's a goddess. And so she says, I curse you. I curse the Ulster men, that every time that they're going to go into battle, just before they draw their swords or get ready with their spears, they are going to suffer labor pains. And this curse lasted through 9 generations. Oh, it's a wonderful song. Oh. Please, come and tell us the story of Macha.
Please tell us more, what is the score? And
come from? And are we the chosen few? We're privy to the power of Makkah. So keep your cool, play by the rule, and we will all survive.
Don't go away, when will you stay? We only know your name is Makkah. Please tell us more, what is the score? And where do you come from? Look after us, we'll make a fuss, and you can trust we need you, Makkah. Not just to strong and sweet, but sew and cook and do the cleaning. You looked at me and wouldn't see I couldn't run, and now when Makkah was not so fleet, had swollen feet, I could barely stand upon them. Could I go home and be alone? For I was tired and kind of weary, but you did persist, made me resist, and I put my curse upon you. Remember me, who do you see? Look, here it's me, and I'll wed Makkah. Remember me, I'll be the one that you'll never forget. Remember me, you soon agree, and lift my heart, and I'll wed Makkah. To save your handsome face, the day I won the race, the day our twins were born.
I only told the king you could run like a hare, and now you've lived up to his majesty's stare. You're the one outrun his charioteers, and I'll be your man, as I know I am. They'll remember you for years, and I'll be your man, as I know I am. They'll remember you for years.
I once was with another woman friend of mine, and we were talking to some braggadocious man one day, and he was saying, "Oh dear, what's the big deal, a woman having a baby? And, you know, what's the pain? What's it like?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what it's like, my friend. Take your arm, put it over your head, grab your upper lip, and stretch it over your skull." You ask no more questions? Well, these early years, the Irish mythology is so wonderful. It's so full of everything. It's an incredible stew of humanity. You know, at one point we had over 150 kings. You know, I mean, this is near the size of what? Texas, not even 150 proclaimed kings. The place was crawling with Celts, Vikings, imps, Normans, rebels, monks, artists, demons, warriors, druids. A lot of druids back then. But you know, back then it all provided the palate to desire them. Here's a trio of rosy songs that will honor the past and the hope of maybe it can come back to us.
Tonight there are dreams to waken the dead, dreams to waken the dead, when hearts sing black and the land bleeds red, and granite and stone is nothing to the stony hearts of men, to the granite and stony hearts of men. hell were a ditch. The red fire of her hair and the blush of her lips is the funeral pyre and the great pit. I wish the dead would live again. My boy's bright eyes would shine again. A babe's blue coat and shiny shoes, my baby's stomach full. The cradle full, the house alive. I wish the dead would live again. And all of this, and all of this, all of this dreamland. Druids, warriors, and demons, look at us, we're still around. Druids, warriors, and demons, we're still around. Can't put us down, can't put us. Druids, warriors, and demons, we're not afraid of you. Druids, warriors, and demons, had us obsessed, had us possessed by you. I rather like that druid Catman. He spoke to me in accent sweet, and when my future lay in ruins, secrets, he whispered secrets, secrets. Fix the man down and muck up. When we thought my race was born, mixed up with thought I know and mock up. I have labor, labor, praise. Druids, warriors, and demons kept us on our toes, of course. Druids, warriors, and demons, we can be taken, we can be shaken by force. With druids, warriors, and demons, I didn't fare as well as me. My neighbors think with too much sorrow. Misha in Scotland, Scotland. A good wine for the last crusade. Don't dare to overlook our name. Our demon warrior and goddess, no less, unless she's carried away. Druids, warriors, and demons, look at us, we're still around. Druids, warriors, and demons, we're still around. Can't put us down, can't put us down, can't put us down, can't put us down, can't put us down. Remember, once upon a time, in the land of the Mongolia.
Lovely, 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 lovely. And now we're going to take a wonderful break by a magnificent musician who's come to my salon this morning. You've probably heard him many times. He plays many instruments. And the beauty is he not only plays with his fingers and his lips, he plays with his soul. Please welcome our own Chris Devine.
some wild women came into your salon.
Well, I've invited quite a few, as you can see, but I don't recall inviting you. But you're lucky you come on a Friday night. Yes, not Saturday yet. It's Friday night.
You mean I can stay and meet the famous pirate queen? Granuaile?
Very well. I mean, meet Granuaile. She's a diamond in the rough, but she's a bit like you, kind of tough.
Well, I'll try to get refined. Can I offer you an oyster or two while you wait? Perhaps a paralegal?
No, I'd rather not. Please, no. Oof.
Well, can I stay?
Yes, you can stay. You add sort of a common touch to our play.
Well, I'm the only one on Grafton Street where past and present meet.
Yes, but, there you are. Why don't you just take a moment and listen to the shrieking of the Irish? Then you'll learn something, my dear, about Ireland and the way it was 200 men she used to command.
I fought the Turks, put up my sail, then gave birth. The crew grew pale. And if you think that act is hard to follow, don't hold your breath. Wild women don't swallow.
Who can tell the mighty tale of the mighty Granuaile, she who faced the wind and sea to sail the seas beyond the pale, gathered pirates and a crew, and her venom she did spew, at Elizabeth I.
Ha! Just imagine life at sea, the ringers and the ocean's roar. Just imagine storms and more, sailors sick and tired and poor, and a woman at the helm who could command a fleet of men. Just imagine how a girl commanded men at sea. Ah!
Said she, I am a pirate queen. Elizabeth was twice as mean. You know that Essex she employed to do her dirty work? Her henchmen were a sorry bunch, chopped off their heads while having lunch, as Grania sailed the sea.
Sail, sail, Granuaile, sail, sail, Granuaile, sail, sail, Granuaile, sail.
Granuaile has all the knack.
She's the one that's all the crack. Any husband's children too. That's hardly fair, I like you. The Irish strangers have them all, no matter what they do. Woo!
All O'Malley's lying and dead. Long to claim her as their head and want them myself. They claim her feats of daring do inspire them to be fearsome too. It makes them confident to know her DNA is in their bones. Of Granuaile they often say, when they are in the pub.
Paddling your own canoe. Don't forget you got your flash from women from the past. Sail, Granuaile, sail, sail, Granuaile, sail. Tell the torrid tale of the mighty Granuaile. She's a big to sail the seas beyond the pale. And her venom she did spew, and her venom she did spew at Elizabeth the First.
They wouldn't let me into Moore Street. They said I was a Yank. It was not my beat.
Why don't you come and sail the seas with me? You could do the cooking and the cleaning, and we'll see if Molly Malone is up to my standards of toughness and cleverness. I hope you're not a drunkard, because I could put you on the Maidenhead. Ditch the wheelbarrow. Let's get blasted. I heard she did have a slight problem with the dock.
We all never mind.
Well, if you and I are going to be on par, I'll share my secrets of pillaging and stealing for the good of the sisterhood of Wilde Irish Women. But we can't have any whinging and a whining and a go slow. Oh, God, could you please tell her to get a better battle cry than alive, alive, oh.
Do you think my reputation would have lasted this long if I hadn't had that dreadful song? I know you got your own song in this show. Will it be a hit? It's hard to know. On your ship's radar were a few minor blips. A tart with a cart is better than a fleet of ships. If I could have been a pirate queen, taken over at the helm, command those men, well, I had a choice about what to do. I would have been a lady like you. Just my luck to be a Dublin scrubber or to stay in Cape Cod and be a landlubber. I could have gotten wild at Temple Bar, gone to the country, gotten wild in Mullingar. But if I'm gonna find my relatives, I better get cracking. Fishing and packing. Hey, there's a picture of me and Speranza hanging at the flaw in the Stuberna. I came from Nantucket, my fish in a bucket, in search of the family of Molly Malone. Says I'll try Dublin, go north to Dundalk. Sure, if I had my way, why it could be New York. In Dublin's fair city, I thought it a pity that I was the last of the tribe of Malone. I'm not a wild woman, that's simply too common. That's why I am sitting in Greenfield alone.
That's why she is sitting in Greenfield alone.
I'm more famous than Maeve. Was all the rave, the most famous fishmonger that ever there was.
smell like a herring. I'm alive, alone, I'm alive, alive, oh.
Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh. She's Molly Malone, she's alive, alive, oh.
In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, when business got rough, sure the going got tough. I heard that floozy had lost her jacuzzi. I'll be working her beak, now won't that be sweet?
Won't that be sweet? She'll give you a treat. She'll give you a treat, and she'll be so discreet. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh. She's Molly Malone, she's alive, alive, oh. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh. She's Molly Malone, she's alive, alive, oh. Alive, alive, oh, alive, 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 oh.
Are you on the wagon again, my darling? Oh, my dears, my dears, my dears. We have gone through, I mean, what, in 40 minutes we've gone through an incredible history of Ireland, where there was legend and myth. And now, after we go and wet our whistle, and I go and see what the Property Brothers have done with my boo, we're going to come back and we're going to go into the new future where legends are legends and myths are not myths. So let's all go wet our whistle here at the mansion, and we'll be back in a bit. Thank you so much. aren't I adorable? Red Fox, my dears. Salve our mommy down there.
Don't tell my secrets.
Well, so now we come into what we could call modern times in Irish history. And I start now with a college romance. At the turn of the 19th century, college students, Trinity College, Dublin, a beautiful, beautiful girl named Sarah Curran. This Curran is marching around campus, you know, looking for a boyfriend. And of course, she can't take just any old boyfriend at Trinity College. She has to have a rebel. Oh, she never see the romance. So she finds a guy named Robert Emmett, you know, and he's a rebel. And she brings Robert home to Dad. Dad's a big-time lawyer. He doesn't like this at all. Doesn't like Robert. Rebels don't have much of a pension plan. And in Robert's case, he didn't have much of a future either. You know, showing off a little, he led a very big rebellion in Ireland, which didn't last very long. He wound up killing someone, and of course, at the age of 22, was tried for murder and hung. Well, that was not the best news for Sarah Curran. She was in shock. You know, that was the love of her life. They exchanged letters all over the place. Dad was relieved and sent her off to Italy and other places to go find a real life, which she did. She found a young man, straight shooter, big guy, big-time guy. They lived in Italy and Spain and England, and it was never the same for her. She was one of those people that was chronically depressed, that sometimes a husband knows that there was a love before they were, and that the person can't shake it. She couldn't shake it. And she, with children, and some of her children died, she went to go back to Ireland, and she died on her, she was at the age of 26. So here's a song about Sarah Curran and her life abroad. She's far from the land where her young hero sleeps.
She is far from the land where her young hero
many of you have been to Conway, Franklin County? Raise your hands. Keep going. Good. You know, we walk the lanes. I do walk the lanes of our countryside. Sometimes in the evening, in the beautiful spring when it's beautiful, beautiful fall when it's beautiful. And I don't know about you, but I'll be very honest and truthful. Every once in a while, I'll hear a voice or a sound. Say, "Excuse me?" And of course, no one's there. I think I see a movement in the bush, maybe an animal, maybe not an animal. Well, Ireland, of course, more than any place that I've ever been, is full of these moments, especially in the mountains and the tracks when you travel at night. And even more so when you spend 5 hours in a pub drinking. William Allingham, a poet, wrote a lovely yet frightening poem who warns us about all of the hidden dangers of imps and sprites and fairies, leprechauns, gnomes that dwell up in the forest bogs and craggy shores of Ireland. So let's listen to this song, and I'm going to invite two lovely little fairies to join us after a while. Jojo and Emily may come out of the forest to join us. So let's welcome everyone. Up here in Louth, let's go.
Up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen, we daren't go a-hunting for fear of little men. We daren't go a-hunting for fear of little men. We folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket, red cap, and white owl's feather. White owl's feather. Down along the rocky shore, some make their home. They live on crispy pancakes of yellow tide foam. They live on crispy pancakes of yellow tide foam. Some in the reeds of the Black Mountain Lake, with frogs for their watchdogs, all night awake. All night awake. High up on the hilltop the old king sits. He is now so old and gray he's nigh lost his wits. He is now so old and gray he's nigh lost his wits. With a bridge of white mist, Columkill he crosses on his stately journeys from Slieveleague to Rosses. Slieveleague to Rosses. Or going up with music on cold starry nights to sup with the queen. To sup with the queen of the gay northern lights. Of the gay northern lights.
Agnes. Now there's a good encounter with fairies, I'll tell you that, my darling. Not my, oh, never mind, I won't W.B. Yeats, that is, you remember W.B. He found it was so much better to experience this life's shortest adventure by dancing and playing the fiddle to life's songs. As to those of us who are so with our heads down and worried about every instant that we can and cannot do something about. You know, we're so busy preparing for the great beyond, in this half of heaven, which when you look for it is here on earth. At least that's the way I feel. My dears, Nora sitting among you. Watch out. Very, very exciting. Well, we move up the centuries. A girl from the countryside, very smart, pretty, I guess, leaves home, and her name is Nora Barnacle. Well, looking for love, because if you have a last name like Barnacle, you scrape off being single. She did very well, actually. I mean, Nora met a young man named James Joyce. She was 20, he was 22. They fell in love, of course, ran away from Ireland, left Ireland, and lived a life on the road. And, of course, you know, James wrote the book Ulysses, of which Nora had only read 17 pages of college. That's 17 more pages than I could ever get through. But, you know, they had a very embittered relationship with Ireland. It was very hard. So they lived abroad, Paris, Trieste, moved around. And when they were flush with money, of course, then they lived well. When they weren't flush, they lived like anybody else, going between Paris, Trieste, ups and downs, just like any couple in the world. I'll let them tell you the story of this, all right? Let's hear about it all, Nora. what it's like to travel with children these days, you know, when you go out and put them in the overhead luggage bin, and they're making them guide children, you know, so that you can get on the plane with them for free. James and Nora, in their short life together, they moved 22 times between Paris and Trieste and London, packing up the kids, moving around. I mean, 22 times. And of course, when they were high on the hog, I mean, they'd stay at places like the George V Hotel in Paris, and then other times it was like, I don't know, the worst of Travelocity, whatever you can get out of it. It was great. It was the Red Roof Inn down there. Few people knew that James Joyce had a better tenor voice than John McCormack, the famous tenor of Ireland. And Nora always wanted to say, stop writing that nonsense, will you please, James, and just go sing for a living. Which he never did, never developed. And he wound up like most of us Irish, you know, we're very good in the pubs and in the bathroom. That's basically it. So here's a little tune about living in Paris.
In Dublin, slum conditions makes me think of Galway and the open sea. Living here in Paris, in Dublin, slum conditions makes me think of Galway and the open sea. If exile is our mission, and one day we'll be famous, despite our poverty here in Paris.
Living here in Dublin, some conditions makes me think of Paris and its liberty. Living here in Dublin, some conditions makes me think of Paris and its liberty. If exile is your mission, then one day I'll be famous and live in liberty in Dublin. Living here in Galway, at home with my relations, makes me think of Paris, that is home to me. So I want you here beside me, beside me, beside me, with my family, despite our poverty here in Galway.
Living here in Trieste in 1907 makes me think of Lucia, the year that she was born. If exile is our mission, then one day, someday she'll be famous, despite her poverty here in Trieste.
Living here in Paris, in Dublin, some conditions
Makes me think of Galway and the open sea.
Modern times came to Ireland in the 20th century. But the English crown held its thumb hard down on the Irish people. And there was a rebellion, an armed rebellion on Easter Sunday in 1916. While many Irishmen were off fighting the war somewhere else, Patrick Pearse and rebels took the post office in Dublin and other advantage points and waged a war that killed hundreds of people and destroyed much property. At the end of that failed rebellion, surrounded by British soldiers at the post office, with bodies and ruin and smoke, Pearse realized it was over. But how to get the word to the British? Among them was a young woman who had been there from the beginning, tending to the wounded, named Elizabeth O'Farrell. She said, I will volunteer. I will take the white flag to the British. There are hundreds of guns trained on her, snipers. She opened the door to what was left of the post office and walked through the rubble-strewn street, the white handkerchief above her head, in her stained nurse's uniform, and gave the terms of surrender to the British. There's one photograph at the post office, at the front of it showing the British officers and Patrick Pearse giving the terms of surrender. And in that photograph you will see a small white sliver. Elizabeth O'Farrell was there, a nurse standing among them. She was photoshopped out of the picture. And all you will see is that white sliver of her dress. Here's a song honoring Elizabeth O'Farrell.
Shards of stone and shattered glass, where deadly bullets fly, she picked her way on O'Connell Street toward the British line. Her skirts were stained a bloody red. Her steps were sure and true. She held the cloth above her head, a sign that they were through. Shards of stone and shattered glass, where deadly bullets fly, she picked her way on O'Connell Street toward the British lines. A silent tear ran down her cheek. It was not for the dying, it was for the death of freedom that said O'Farrell crying. Through shards of stone and shattered glass, where deadly bullets fly, she picked her way on O'Connell Street toward the British lines. Oh, on Easter Monday morning. Shards of stone and shattered glass, where deadly bullets fly, she picked her way on O'Connell Street toward the British lines.
Hard times have come to Ireland in the 20th century. It was not only the troubles of Northern Ireland that sent people to jail. There were other epidemics besides those kinds of troubles with the British. Trouble that invades this country as well. It's a terrific heroin epidemic in Dublin, the major city. It produced one of the first homegrown Irish mafias. Working class thugs getting their hands dirty in the drug trade. Getting their hands on untold sums of money. Many of them escaped into their homes in Spain and then come back and keep selling it. The Irish newspapers had a reporter, a woman named Veronica Guerin, a young woman. She was one of them. She was one of Dublin's first, most fearless investigative journalists, and we know what happens when people start to speak out against people that don't want to be pressed. Drug lords were onto her. One night in her home, sitting in the living room, shots came through the window. She was wounded. She recovered and kept on reporting. Wasn't so lucky the next time. Stopped at a light, talking on her cell phone on Newcastle Cross. They took her down. She was only 36 years old.
If I could do it all over again, I'd live my life free and say amen. To do my work, I took my chances. But if I could do it, I'd do it again. The times were good, too good, I'm sure.
been an evening of quite a variety of wild Irish women, and I'm so happy that everybody has come here to watch the line. These songs will go on in your head like they do in mine. You have to do something like a Pabst Blue Ribbon or a Men in Cream song to get them out of your head. I guarantee you the little phrases will go through. I'm old. I can't remember any more than the first two lines. But in my day, I had a nom de pem, a pem de nom, a nom de guerre, a nom of everything. I had all kinds of noms. My nom was actually Italian, speranza, meaning, of course, hope. And you know, when I look at the world now and Ireland and beyond, I mean, look at Ireland. Here we have a gay Hindu mayor in Dublin. Hello? No smoking in pubs. Hello? I mean, really, Uber, right? So, and I, of course, in my day, I spoke many languages. This was Russian, Italian, French, Bronx. Among many. But I'm most proud when I think back of that name that I published under. Which was, ladies?
From an age the world has long forgotten, from an age that weaves a silent magic in green field today.
Hit it, boys! I'll say goodbye to the stars now. Instead of potatoes, I'll eat carbonara.
The glory of yesterday, what it meant to be
Joe and Emily, Joe Healy, Michael Healy, Matt Bass, Rick Steinhouse, and Emily. Stephanie Carlson. Yes. And the band behind me are Chris Devine, Lynn Lovell, Rob Terradon, Robin Fouts, and Michael Morgan. Thank you so much for coming out tonight and supporting all of us. Thank you.